Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Bettina. How are you?
Hello, Eric. Hello, everyone. I'm doing all right. Just, oh dear.
I've
It always sounds ominous.
I know. Well, we get these conversations before the show begins, and then we start the show off. We try to pretend we're on neutral footing here, but
Yeah.
you know, you're saying you were experimenting with your diet, and so that's
Yeah, no,
it's
yeah,
you're having some effects.
a little bit. I think sometimes too much greens in the form of salad is not a good thing. Um,
Yeah, I know myself. Oh, didn't know you. Go ahead.
no, I'm done.
I was just gonna say I know that myself. If I it's certainly you know that they're good for you and you want to incorporate as much of them as possible. But I do know that myself. Sometimes when you do go overboard, you have too many servings of vegetables that your stomach kind of feels stomach has to work a little bit extra once to get used to it. And so it's kind of one of those it's those difficult things because you want to make positive improvements, but there's a little bit of pain to go through to get there. And isn't that kind of a metaphor for every kind of improvement we want to make in our life? When we start moving in the other direction or the direction that we newly decided, there's sometimes some resistance, and you're not acclimated to it, whether it be physically, emotionally, or spiritually.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is definitely a great metaphor, and it's funny because it sort of coincides. I was feeling a lot of anger this morning, um, and then I had lunch. I felt fine, and then just sitting here, it was like, and my stomach started bothering me, and I was like, "What?" I'm like just about to do the show, and why are you starting to, you know, bother me now? Who knows? Who knows? It's part of, I think it's all connected. And I think, the fact that I was feeling anger this morning is no big surprise if I have a stomach ache right now. So, because
Mm.
I really do believe that the body is a great indicator of what is going on emotionally. So, um, that's that's one of the things I use to, um, and I think I use it too much. It's really interesting because the five enneagram. I was listening to the enneagram summit was on a couple of weeks ago, and I just caught a couple of the talks, and one of them was a five enneagram talking about her experience and her growth and the kind of things that she um, learned about herself as a five, and I've heard this mentioned before, and I used to go. People would say it, and I used to go, I don't get what you're talking about. I feel like I'm. They'd say fives are not connected to their body, and I'd go, no, no, that's not right. I'm too connected to my body because I'm always scanning and trying to figure out, oh, what's that ache and what's that about and what's this, and then worrying about it. And it's like, it's the old, oh, I got a headache, it must be a tumor, or I got a pain in my gut, it must be this, it must be that. And it's like I'm too connected to my body. But this particular day I must have been totally ready to hear what that meant. And she said, the way she explained it really made sense to me, because she was talking about, she finally learned to connect with the sensations of her body and what it feels like. And it dawned on me that my connection to my body is all in my head. So it's all my thoughts about my body and what that means. It's not connecting to the sensations of my body, but connecting to the thoughts about and the analyzing about what my body's doing, what's happening in my body. It was so interesting to finally see what they meant when they were talking about fives not being connected to their body. It was like, another light bulb went on. So So yeah, to be sitting here and going, oh, I got a stomach ache. Oh, I must be dying of something, right? I mean, it's such a, stay in your head about it instead of like going into the sensations of it. That's what they're talking about. Um, and that's totally from a 5 perspective, but I think it's a really important distinction to make. And um, and to stay in your head about everything. Oh my God, like, everybody thinks which is the best Enneagram type to be, and there isn't one, because every one of them has their heaven and their hell. And to be stuck in your head is sometimes a prison. It really is sometimes a prison, because you cannot let go and enjoy the experience. That's the other thing, is you go into an experience and um, you're not like social events. You go to a social event and you're like kind of in your head about the social event. You're not really experiencing it. So yeah, it was really interesting. Anyway, that's just kind of a um, tangent I just went on, but there you have it.
No, it's good. I think it's super interesting, actually. I mean, I think there's so many things that make us good friends, but also that we're both 5s on the Enneagram, and so there's times when you say things that hit me in a way that I feel is like, it's always nice when you're a 5 to have a 5 as a teacher, or to have a 5 as somebody you can converse with, because sometimes you say things in ways that really hit me, and that was one of them. And when you said when the light bulb went off, what you were saying there is, I just realized kind of for the first time, said like that, like that's totally true. With talking about being connected with your body, I'm always concerned with my body and thinking about it and so on. And I never really kind of had the paradigm of that, it's my thoughts about my body. And that makes a lot of sense to me. That really describes my experience in a whole wide range of activities in my life and the things that I've experienced. That's absolutely true. I absolutely experienced that as well. And I also find it fascinating when I'm with somebody. Yeah, I guess the best opportunity is romantically, when you're with somebody who is not like that, and it's fascinating, and I love spending time with people who are different like that, because to watch them go through their process where they're not in their heads and they're just in their body, or they process what's going on, or the cues or the information that's coming up, into their brain from their body. It's really fascinating to watch another person process a similar experience in a different way, and that really hits home for me. That it's all about my thoughts about my body, and being trapped in your head and not being able to fully give to let go and enjoy an experience. Yeah, that's absolutely stuff that I've experienced in my life, and it's a natural setting, and in where it serves to benefit me, I can look to um, cast away that perspective and try from others, and just even realizing that about yourself. And that's why I think it's so important to do these personality tests, especially these big ones like the Enneagram, like Myers-Briggs, and a couple others. To do them, they don't take long to get like a rough shot of what you are, and then it just allows so much self-understanding and self-forgiveness, and allows you to see yourself. Um, we all like the idea that we're special, um, and it allows us. I think whenever every time that I do them, or I focus on them, or focus on them with another, it really kind of highlights how special I am and how special everybody else is too. Because despite us having all the same, essentially the same makeup, the way in which we experience that makeup can be wildly different. And it also helps prevent conflict, because you can sit back and acknowledge and allow another person to be and to live through their processes. And it's a much more peaceful and accepting way to view yourself and others.
Yeah, it's interesting because just that whole idea of understanding not only yourself but others. Um, once you understand a type that someone is, and you have a general idea, because I mean, to learn each type in great depth, I've been studying it for quite a few years now, and I've done a few courses in it, and I still don't feel like I've got as my such a 5 thing to say. I feel like I'm not an expert enough at it yet, that I haven't really got the depth of it that I could have with more study. But just having a general knowledge of the different types and what their core belief and their core, their main fear or whatever it is for them. When they start to behave in a certain way, it's very easy to look at the situation and understand better where they're coming from, where that anger is coming from. It keeps you from taking the anger personally because you can see what is behind it. Like a counterphobic 6, their anger comes from their fear. I can't cope with this situation right now. You're changing things and I can't cope with that because it's taking me out of my comfortable little, ball that I curl myself into. It helps you to have more compassion because you see it from the vulnerable side, not from the attack, the side of attack. It's so helpful. And, I had someone question me recently about the whole idea of labeling, and I'm not really keen on the idea of being labeled. And I explained that that's one of the first things I ever say when I begin teaching the Enneagram in a workshop is, this is not about labeling yourself or learning what excuses you have for being the way you are. This is absolutely a tool, a very valuable tool for self-growth and for self-realization. And it really, really does make a huge difference when you understand your own type and what are the things that drive you. It's really interesting. And I think now that I understand that whole thing about, it's my thoughts about my body I'm connected to, not my body that I'm connected to. And it's my thoughts about the experience that I'm connected to, not the experience itself. I'm not fully physically immersed and connected to the situation, which is why I'm pretty sure it was a 5 who invented the internet, because what better way for a 5 to interact with the world than through this, invisible wall of the internet. But knowing that, now I can take that information and I can say, okay, when I am like starting to do that, scanning my body and feeling aches and pains and analyzing them and getting in my head about them, I can stop and take a breath and just go into the sensation without judgment and really feel the sensations and look at it with interest instead of with judgment and curiosity and really be in the sensations of my body. Whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, no difference. And I think, that whole idea of living with anxiety, that's sort of a contributor to it, is that whole being in your head about it and analyzing it all the time. It just fascinates me. That's all I can say. I know I always come back to it, but it is fascinating to me. And I have learned so much about myself and gained so much from the knowledge of my Enneagram type and the Enneagram types of the people that I'm in relationship with. It's really cool because what you said about it's interesting how we really connect because of our similarities in our personality type. It's so cool to me. Another 5. They get me. They understand where I'm coming from. They know, what this is all about. And it's it's almost comforting to find other people. You're not alone in your, in your sort of quirks and quirks, so to speak. Um, but then again, it is also, as you said, interesting to connect with other people, and maybe more so for a 5 because they're so interested and they love to observe, right? Um, to connect with people who are different and to learn how they process and how they see the world and how they see themselves, and where they're coming from, whether it's the heart, the head, um, or the instinct. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I always encourage anybody, if I have friends or get into a conversation with people who, are frustrated or disappointed in their relationship. It's one of the first things I try to point at. It's like, well, if you guys did this together, it would help so much for you to understand one another. And like you say, when it's when we spend time and you talk about something that's bothering you, or a reservation you have about something, and I totally get it because I have the exact same reservations. It's so easy there's very little friction in us understanding each other and why we behave the way we do. But if you get into a relationship with somebody who's not your number, and it's 1 in 9 chance somebody's your number, and how many times you're talking earlier about it allows you to come from a place of compassion, not attack. How many times people have had the thought or have shared in frustration, when they're talking with a friend outside of the relationship, saying, I don't like it when they do this. When you made the example of a counterphobic 6 who wants to stay in a ball and doesn't want to, feels uncomfortable because things are changing around them, or you change plans or something like that. That can be really frustrating to somebody who doesn't understand. I don't like it when, like, why can't you just handle that? Like, that seems so simple to me in my number, but to you, it's like your greatest, discomfort. And you can just end up judging the person if you don't know. If you don't know these things, you just judge the person like, oh, they can't handle anything. It makes me frustrated. So then I have to step up and do it for them. And then you just get out of love, and you start ruining your polarities, and you start overcompensating for the other person. And all it takes is love. All it takes is a little bit of understanding, a little bit of self-education, and you can come at that from love. And when that person is feeling that, rather than being frustrated at them, you can absolutely have compassion and love, see their vulnerability, which is only going to make you more attracted to them, and you're going to be able to help them in, like, once you understand what's going on in them, you're able to so much better devise a strategy to help them out of it, or to help the circumstances that are triggering that in somebody else. And that is what we come into relationship for, whether it be romantic or friends or otherwise. It's this win-win situation where I can make your life better and you make my life better just by us interacting. But it takes that self-education. And sometimes when we finish school, we stop educating ourselves, and all we want to do is point the finger and say, they're ridiculous. Why can't they handle these things that are my strengths, in the same way that I can? And I think it's just critically important. It's been so useful in my life. And then when you do that for another, I mean, you keep doing that, you spiral yourselves upwards in a relationship. And I know that, just even hanging out with you and Peter, rarely does a night go by and an acknowledgement of understanding each other's numbers comes up as something that is really leaned on, and used as a real foundation for the strength of your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we have to keep reminding ourselves and each other, um, because we do approach things differently. Okay, everybody in this family is in that thinking, fearful triad. And in some way it makes it easy, but in some way it can hold us all back, because the fear, a lot of times fear holds you back. But we all approach it totally differently. And where the 7 will run, the 5 will hunker down and analyze it, right? Really want to be in it and look at it and figure it out and learn a way to get past it, and all those interesting things. And the 7 is like gone, gone, just gone. It's like, nope, not comfortable, I'm out of here. So it
Yeah.
has been really interesting, just navigating the relationship, more so in the beginning than now because we've grown together. But yeah, navigating it from that point of view of, okay, I get why you do it differently. And I have to remember in that moment of conflict or um, misalignment, is what I call it. Like if we get out of alignment, um, I have to remember he's a 7. He needs his space. He needs to go run off and, you know, be away from it. That's how he copes with it. The 6, okay, there's changes coming. Okay, I'm going to tell you what the changes are, and then I'm going to walk away and let you become comfortable and trusting about it, because it is all about trust. Not engage with you about it and have an argument, because that is not going to give you the space to become comfortable and learn to trust it, but just leave you to figure it out. And then I know they'll be fine with it. But until you understand that, there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of conflict and hitting against each other in that, trying to make it better for everybody and fix it from your own perspective and from your own character type. It's really hard to help someone else through from your perspective because they don't understand it. They don't see it the way you do. They don't want you to analyze them. All you 5s out there, people don't want you to analyze them because it makes them feel like they're broken. I've learned this the hard way, people. Just take my advice.
Yeah,
It's true. I have learned it the hard way, and I have had to take some hard knocks because of it. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I have it. I'm so glad that I have the Enneagram, because it all makes more sense to me now. And it really has helped me to give people the space to, it makes me a good coach because I can ask the right questions of people and sort of point them in the right direction. But it also has taught me to be able to, for the people in my life, give them the space to do it the way that they need to do it, with regards to their own character type.
I think it's one of the biggest keys to why it's so valuable, the Enneagram and others, is because of that. And this will be 5-centric because we both are, and we can both speak from very personal relationship experiences. And you talk about that analyzing, when you understand it for yourself as being such a huge strength and something that you go to first and is so strong for you and has helped you so much in your life. And then you get into adulthood and you start using it over and over and over again, and you can't figure out why everybody is reacting so poorly to it. You're like, well, this just makes sense to me. Why wouldn't you think like this? That doesn't make any sense. Look, and you can, and if you get in positions of power or authority, you can really, misfire and misconnect with people because you don't know. And it's so funny. It's why it's so important to know your number and to understand that there's, when you go and something's been such a strength for you, and you just get example after example after example of it not working, for when you deal with others, it's super frustrating, and you feel really alone, and you get angry and you get frustrated, and then you want to go talk to other people and be like, I don't understand, this just makes so much sense to me. And then when I try to put it in the context of having somebody else in the picture, it's always going to shit, and I don't get it. And that's exactly how I felt. And for yours, it was analyzing others, and I absolutely did that. I was absolutely overly righteous, growing up. And once I started finding out some of these things and starting to take control of my life, I mean, it was a good decade where it was the thing that was keeping me from connecting with people, despite it being the best thing to ever happen to me and be my strongest tool for myself. And I know that when I was in my early romantic relationships, I'd always, want to, when you say 5s want to hunker down and analyze it, let's figure this out, let's talk it through and stuff like that. And I had learned somewhere, and that is a strong relationship. Yeah, habit. Absolutely. You absolutely want to be talking things out. But in the way that I was doing it and the way that I was uncompromising and forcing another, it absolutely caused strife and conflict, and it only served to disconnect me from the other person. And you'll go through that enough and you're like, what is going on? I don't get it. And then, something like the Enneagram comes along and can explain it all to you. You're like, oh my God, how much time did I waste beating my head against the wall and doing something that didn't work, but I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And that's just, this is just five centric, a little tangent on here, but every number has their thing. Every number is like, if you're talking about the seven, it's like, why do we want to engage when we're both so emotionally activated? Why wouldn't you just want to go out, go ride a motorcycle, go on a walk, take off, spend a day at work, go act, occupy yourself with something else, and then come back when we're calm and we can go through this in a much more concise way from a neutral emotion. And like, you've heard that before?
No, I just remembered in the early days of our relationship, and I'd be upset about something, and Peter would just like walk away, and I'd be like following him around the house. No, you have to talk to me. You have to tell me what's going on.
Right? Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
and that was with Peter. And what was that like in previous relationships,
Yeah. Well,
where,
this is it.
Somebody isn't as high quality as Peter. Yeah. Just disaster.
Yeah. And
I know
it's true.
myself too.
Each type has their own thing. I mean, you look at the one who is always looking for perfection and never finding it, and they have such a high moral standard, and they cannot understand, and this is in the not so healthy place, bear in mind. A lot of times they can't understand why someone else doesn't have that same high moral standard, and they have no tolerance for people who don't live by their moral standard. And the big lesson for them to learn is that everybody has their own moral standard, and that it doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. It just means they're different, and it's okay to be different. It doesn't have to be your way or the highway. Again, it's that whole idea of understanding, what your triggers are, understanding what that characteristic is, and moving from the unhealthy side of it to the healthy side of it so that you can use it to your advantage. You can use it as a gift as opposed to a crutch. It's just, I don't know. I just can't say enough how valuable it is. And clearly I feel it's valuable because I talk about it a lot here. And many other places too, might I add, because I'm an expert.
Right.
As only a 5 could say. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this just scratches the surface really, and it's hardly comprehensive. It's like, there's only a few percentage points into understanding how all the numbers interact with one another. But when I started reading and when I started to try to find my way through books and spirituality and self-help and self-education, nothing thrilled me more than was to read something for the first time and just have those aha moments. And having the aha moment about what I was doing to cause my relationships to have constant conflict, despite my best intentions for my behavior was to eliminate the conflict, which was hilarious, and it was only causing more. And when you just don't get it, and so sometimes I could absolutely see if I had done that for 10, 15 years, that's how you give up. That's how you're just like, okay, well, I don't get it. And we're just going to coexist in a way where we don't fight. And that's like one of the worst things you can do for, it's the worst thing you can do for this gift of life you've been given. I mean, why not? Why not live with a tremendous connection and tremendous passion with things that you do? And if we don't continue to self-educate and have these aha moments, and the Enneagram being one of the greatest fertile ground for, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I understand my partner. I understand my kid. I understand the 20 years of conflict I had with my parents. It's just, you just fireworks in your brain. And then, the Enneagram is a huge pasture for those moments.
Yeah, it really is. I won't go on about it anymore.
Well, we used up our half an hour, so we'll have to save it for next week or something. How do you feel about sending us off into our day with the meditation?
I can definitely do that.
Thank
It
you.
would take me probably months to impart all the ins and outs of the Enneagram. Um,
Yeah.
I know doing a workshop on the Enneagram, an introduction, 2.5 hours is it's like whew, I've really got to whistle through it. So um, it's just so fascinating. Anyway, let's do a meditation.
Yeah.
Let's get out of our heads. Let's
Well,
play.
yeah, that's the other point too. They don't. I know that fives we love. When you say break the habit, something that we could have gone off on earlier in the show is about
Yeah.
breaking it up. Not just thinking about our body. And so that's why massage, meditation, Reiki is so interesting to a five because it's like, wow, this is a way that I can give up control and just come from the body.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, let's meditate. Let's close our eyes and take a deep breath. And as you breathe, feel that breath of life as it moves in through your nose, all the way down to your diaphragm. And since we're talking about connecting with the body, let's really feel that breath as it fills our body with that beautiful, wonderful oxygen. And feel the sensations of the body. Feel your feet planted on the ground, deeply rooted. Feel your ankles and your calves. Really be with the sensation and try not to analyze and think about it. Just be with the sensation. No judgment, no criticism, no wants or don't wants or shoulds or shouldn'ts. Feel the sensations in the knees, in the thighs, in the hips, the stomach. Feel the sensations in the chest and breathe deeply in, opening the chest and allowing the heart to open and just be in this beautiful space of feeling all the physical sensations in your body and allow yourself to just sit with them, be curious about them. Your face, your ears, the top of your head, just feeling and being with all the sensations of the body. Feel the chair and how your body rests against the back of the chair. Let yourself feel it. Don't try to describe it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to judge it. Feel the sensation of the chair against the back of against your back. Feel the seat of the chair against your bottom. Feel the sensation of your clothing touching your skin. If you're wearing jewelry, feel the sensation of the jewelry against your skin. And just allow yourself to be in the sensations. No doing, no judging, no criticizing, no analyzing. Just being with each sensation. And allow those sensations to just be whatever they are in this moment. Now gently bring your awareness back to where you are. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring yourself gently back to the room.
That was really good. It's so good to get out of your head, and
It's,
to feel those things on your body.
yeah, yeah, it's not specific to fives. It's I think a lot of us can, get so distracted that we forget to be fully in our body. So it's good for anybody, really. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, felt good for me too. Actually, I ought to do that more often.
Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same thing. Sometimes when you get out of practice and you haven't meditated for 8 days or done whatever it is that's meditation for you, and you realize, man, I haven't even noticed any of these things for 8 days, for a month, for longer. I haven't even noticed my hips. I haven't even noticed what my thighs feel like sitting in a chair. And it's all just so amazing. It's,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah. I know I sound like some spiritual yogi or something like that. It's amazing, your thighs.
Oh, namaste. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it really is quite fascinating what's going on inside your body without us being even aware. And that which keeps us alive.
The body has an amazing way of healing itself, of finding its own way, of doing whatever it needs to do, and we keep wanting to interfere.
Yeah.
And um, I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'll say one more thing on the show just because I'm having a good time. But I was listening to some Benjamin Smythe, which I often do, is a video of his from like 2013, and he talked about people can get really worked up about what they eat and diets and things like this, and he was talking about just yeah. That's all important. It's important to know all that, to get really educated on it, to know the nutritional values and all this kind of stuff, and to find the right balance for you. But you know, when that becomes too much, just think, am I eating something that's not killing me? If you can say yes to that, you know, give, give yourself 1 star, and then if you portion properly with the proper amounts of magnesium and zinc and alkalinity and all that kind of stuff, then you get 2 stars. But,
yeah.
just get one star is pretty damn good, because it's hard to go a day without smoking, drinking diet Pepsi, having spiking your blood sugar, eating when you shouldn't, eating things you shouldn't. Um, it's
It's
just,
moderation, right? It's everything
yeah,
in moderation. I
be
think we
nice
can
to
get
yourself.
too extreme. Yeah, I think we can get too extreme about things, and certainly we do things to abuse our bodies when we're not feeling good about ourselves.
Mm,
But um, and that's what I said at the top of the show about the whole mind, body, spirit all being so connected. Is that um, and for me, if I find myself beating a path to the kitchen constantly looking for something to eat, then often, not always, because I really want that sugar,
mm,
but often I will stop and go, "Whoa, what's going on? What's
mhm.
going on? What is it that what void am I trying to fill with food?" Um,
Yeah,
Again, it's awareness is everything, and
yeah,
the willingness to be kind to ourselves, I think, is another big factor. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like when you beat the path to the kitchen, and we've all done it, and I'm certainly guilty of it. But yeah, stopping yourself, I find putting my palm like on my stomach, just being like a friend to myself. Like, hang on, what's going on? What's going on, bud? You know, why do you feel like you need to eat when you're not hungry, and eat something, and you know that you're going for those chocolate covered raisins or whatever it is. You're not going for a couple pieces of celery.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm.
It's like ask your stomach, what is it you're trying to tell me,
Yeah.
right? Why do
Yeah.
you feel empty? What is that emptiness?
Yeah. 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 Self love.
Exactly.
Well, thanks everybody for watching this week. It's been a pleasure to put on the show. Really enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next.
Have a great week, everyone.